afternoon, and welcome to the NHS informational meeting for potential new members and their families. Hi, Dad. You can go ahead and take a seat now. Unfortunately, I only have 8 minutes between my end of the day, AP Mime seminar, and my esports meeting. Esports, it's in the thumbs. So you're gonna have to bear with me now. Now, I was asked to come speak to you as Vice President of NHS because I was in the same spot you all were a year ago. Between my 3 AP classes, 7 clubs, 2 varsity sports, and volunteering at the retirement village on Ballin' with Boomers night, I had nothing else to do. So I was asked to come speak to you all about a looming problem that affects not only the student body, but the staff as well: burnout. And no, Josh, I'm not talking about your colon after Taco Bell Tuesdays. Why are you even here? You can't even spell NHS. I'm talking about student burnout. According to the CDC from April 28th, the percentage of high school students with the persistent feelings of burnout rose 83% in the last decade. After almost 2 full years of not being able to do anything, high school students feel the need to try everything, and it's leaving us bogged down, worked up, and burnt out. So today, let's fire up the causes of burnout, set ablaze some effects, before finally extinguishing some solutions, so I can peacefully organize my weekly calendar by color with only screaming into my pillow once. Okay, maybe twice. So what exactly is student burnout? Is it a real thing? Or is it something my dad thought our generation made up to avoid doing work, like mental health days or global warming? The first cause of burnout is external. According to The Atlantic from 2023, from parents to teachers, to coaches, to Mr. McElroy's parole officer, everyone seems to be all up in our business these days, telling us exactly how to live our lives and exactly why we're terrible human beings if we don't live up to these standards. So between my math teacher telling me I need to spend 7 hours a night on homework, and my softball coach telling me I need to find private hitting lessons outside of our regularly scheduled practice times, and my mom telling me my room looks like Nagasaki and Hiroshima had a baby, I'm a little stressed. However, although we teens love to blame everyone else for our problems, right, Dad? We do have to be honest and say some of this may be self-inflicted as well. And much like tattoos and listening to Weezer, there are certain things you shouldn't inflict upon yourself. So let's talk self-causes. The Guardian from 2018 says that our brains naturally want to say yes to things. This is where the prefrontal cortex part of our brains comes into play, or the part that helps us make decisions. When information comes to our prefrontal cortex, our automatic response is yes. No comes about 30 minutes later after my 3rd Big Mac. So now that we have seen how big of a deal burnout is in our society, let's dive in a little deeper and see why it is such a big deal. Today, we have 2 effects. First, quiet quitting, and the physiological effects. If you have never heard of quiet quitting, it isn't simply walking into your boss's office, silently flipping him off, and walking out the door. The New York Times quotes quiet quitting as, when you are working on completing a task, but don't necessarily care that the task gets done to the best of your ability, just that it gets done and you can move on. Like when my math teacher assigns me 30 problems of homework, and I figure that 7 is close enough to 30. The Times goes on to say that more and more people are coming to work with this mentality than ever before. Mediocrity is starting to become a new normal, and not just what my dad calls me after every orchestra concert. Yeah, thanks, Dad. Next, let's look at the physiological effects. Psychology Today tells us that burnout can cause an increase in anxiety, dysphoria, and insomnia, a phenomenon I like to call Tuesday. So remember last year when we were all destroying bathrooms, stealing clocks, and uncapping the expo markers so they would dry out and we get a fat like the next day on TikTok? That was the burnout talking, not us. Okay, I've spent enough time on my therapist's couch. How can we overcome student burnout and rekindle our flame? First up, teachers and coaches. As faculty members, you need to show flexibility. No, Mr. McElroy, I'm not talking that sort of flexibility. I don't know how you got your foot there, but I would suggest putting it back. Teachers and coaches need to realize that their class or activity is not the only thing on their students' plate, and that there are only 24 hours in a day. So when Coach Halbert tells us to keep rounding the bases for the third month in a row, remind her that we were 2 and 23. We were never on base. Why practice something we're never even going to do in games? Just saying. Second, parents. Now, most of you in this room are what my father would call seasoned parents. Hell, he's the whole frickin' spice rack. According to the CDC's official website, yeah, Dad, Fauci said this one. Be kind to your children. Tell them you love them and support them, but don't be a coach, or a conductor on that matter, so there's no need to bring your baton to the concerts. Just be parents. Finally, how to self-manage our own emotions. If there's something NHS students aren't good at, it's scaling back. But that's exactly what we need to do. According to the CDC, 90% of kids feel burnt out. We need to choose our activities wisely, not spread ourselves too thin, and manage our time accordingly. When we limit our activities, we are able to take on roles of leadership, which is what NHS is truly all about. Today, we examine the causes of burnout, discover how they affect us, before finally turning to some possible solutions. So if any of you see my dad at our next orchestra concert, remind him he didn't go to Juilliard. Oh, and a $10 bounty on that baton of his. And finally, just be kind to yourselves. And maybe we can push back on this new epidemic of student burnout together.